Screen Slurps.
Hello and welcome to Screen Slurps, the movie review podcast where we discuss the good, the bad, and the savage in the world of cinema. I'm Adam Meisner.
And I'm Laura Meisner.
And this week we are talking about the newly released film that is in the minds of many people out there. And if it's not on your mind, well, maybe it should be. We're talking about the film Saltburn.
Saltburn. It's been all over my TikTok.
I was about to say, I'm going to give you a Saltburn. That just does not sound right, though, because this movie...
Don't say that ever
especially
again.
After the kind of things that are coming back from what people have said after seeing this movie.
What happens in this movie?
What happens in this... I take back that comment that I was going to make. Well, you know, a Saltburn is something completely different than
it's like,
metaphorically
what
speaking.
What is it? Like when you're like a slug? You know, because like...
That's what I was thinking. You pour the salt on something, it's just like...
Yeah, that's what you're thinking of Saltburn.
That's what I was thinking of.
Okay, that is not what happens in this.
Yeah, no, that's not this movie at all.
No. I think my early comment is going to be, if you're listening to this episode, if you haven't yet watched Saltburn, stop listening to this episode and go watch the movie first, because you should go into the movie having like no spoilers, really no idea what's going on. And do not listen to this episode if you have not watched the movie yet. That's like my one piece of advice.
Yes, and listener discretion, this film is very inappropriate, very raunchy. Just be forewarned, especially if you're going to go watch the movie.
It's raunchy. I mean, it is raunchy, but it's like, I would more describe it as like upsetting.
Yeah, I don't just mean raunchy. I mean, it gets...
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it, all right.
There's some trigger warnings in this movie.
But before we get into the film of the week, Saltburn, we are going to talk a little side slurps. That's right, our side slurps are the things that we have done this past week other than watch the film of the week. Maybe they're other movies that we have seen. Maybe they are some TV shows. Maybe they're not even film or movie related. It could be video games. It could be music related. It could just be juggling knives. I'm not quite that intent.
Are we just gonna go through all these random like hobbies? Last week was yo-yos. This week we had juggling.
Laura, are you just catching on to this?
I mean, what's next? Trapeze walking. Cartwheeling.
Don't give away my secrets of what I do on the show.
Okay. You did want to be a clown.
I did want to be a clown. I could have taken up juggling knives.
You could have went to clown school and learned how to juggle.
Missed
opportunity.
It was something I wanted to do as a child, not be a knife juggler, but I did want.
Yes.
But Laura, what have you been up to this past week?
All right, few things I've got on the list. First of all, I finished reading my first book of 2024. My Goodreads challenge for this year is 70 books. 75 books. So I'm hoping to beat that. I already have one down, and that was Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone, which is the 9th book in the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. Let me tell you, that was a long-ass book. 50 hours. Page count is like 900 pages or something. It was so long.
Was it still 50 hours at the speed that you listen to?
No, I listen to things on 2 times speed. So that would be 25 hours. I did a mix of listening and reading the physical book because I wanted to get it done. And so I would read when I could, but then while I was like working or doing my little craft that I'll talk about in a second, I would listen to the audiobook so I could like keep it going all the time. But I love Outlander. I think it's a great series. I love the premise around it. I love the characters. So I was really excited to read this book, even though it was very long. And yeah, kind of coupled with that, I'm starting to rewatch the TV series. I'm kind of making Adam watch it with me. So we're in the first season. We haven't really gotten to any of the good stuff yet, but we're in there. So other than that, the other thing I've been doing, as I mentioned, was my little craft, and I'm making a shirt for Adam. I'm really excited. I'm almost done, honestly.
I'm pretty excited for it, honestly. I love wearing button-down shirts.
It's a nice short sleeve button-up.
It's looking cool.
So that's my little crafty housewife bits and bobs. We also kind of related to books and TV shows. We started the new Percy Jackson TV series that's just come out on Disney Plus recently. I was a really big fan of that series, the book series, as a kid. I read a lot of them. You know, if you know me and have listened to this show, you know I kind of love like mythology and everything in that realm. So the book series was a real favorite of mine. The movies that were done a while ago were quite unfortunate. So I have high hopes for this TV series and that it will be a little closer to what the books kind of gave me as a kid. Adam's watching that with me as well, though he did not read the book series as a kid. So I don't think you, Adam, are like as emotionally invested as I am. So you may not like the show as much because it is really geared towards kids. But I'm enjoying it.
Most things I watch are geared towards children, so it's okay.
I don't know about that.
I watch a lot of older shows that were geared towards children, though. I like to flash back to my younger years.
Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah, rewind back to Fairly Odd Parents or Ed, Edd and Eddy.
Dexter's Lab.
Dexter's Lab, yeah. I go to my childhood when things were geared towards children, and that was a different time where things that were geared towards kids were also very humorous to adults, I think. And a lot of the jokes, even if you weren't a kid, then you still thought it was funny, but if you were a parent watching, you still thought, okay, this is pretty funny.
But I'm enjoying Percy Jackson. I'm excited to watch more of it and see where it goes. And then the last thing I had on my list was something that you and I went and did together, Adam, and that is that we went with our friend Aubrey to go see the Sugar Hill Nutcracker, which was an exciting little trip. It was a ballet, like a dance, that was kind of a reworked version of the Nutcracker using Duke Ellington music, as well as, who was the other artist? Strayhorn music. And it was kind of like reimagined to be set in Harlem. And it was a lot of fun. The dancing was amazing. The dancers were beautiful. The music was great. So yeah, that's kind of like the big things on my side slurps. What about you, Adam? What do you got on your list?
My past week has been pretty much in a similar realm as the week prior. And I say that because I don't think it's been too stressful as of late. It's been a lot of me just trying to figure out what's going on with the project of designing a video game for our Screen Slurps website. I'm happy to say it is moving forward. I'm making some nice progress. I'm learning a lot more about designing a game in the Unreal Engine. Very cool. Sound way too nerdy as I say that, but it's just great. It's really cool to start integrating elements into that and be putting together a functioning game in the Unreal Engine and be able to design that and see where that goes. And other than that, I've also felt just like I'm going back to high school in some of my off time and just starting to think about playing just MMO video games between Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft. Again, becoming this super nerd in my free time. So between those two games, it's really just deciding.
I hardly talk to you. Just kidding.
Pretty much. Well, you're playing Honkai Star Rail. So
Honky Tonk, as we like to call it.
That game's not quite an MMO game, and I haven't completely lost myself in MMO games yet.
But operative word.
I've lost myself in the train of thought of whether or not I want to play them or not. That's the problem. Do I play or don't I play? Do I pay for it or do I just do something else? Should I go work on something or should I play this game? That's the real problem.
I've already got the Chocobo music stuck in my head. You haven't even played it that much, and it's already there.
I had to turn that setting off on Final Fantasy because every time you get on the Chocobo,
it gets stuck in your head, and it kind of sounds like the NFL song when you just sit there. Yeah, very similar.
That would be cool if it did that in that game.
Oh my gosh, another side slurp I can bring up. Speaking of football, University of Michigan won the Rose Bowl. Woo woo! That's my team. Really excited. We're going to the national championships. By the time this episode comes out, that game will be over, actually. So I'm going to preemptively say, go Blue!
Yeah, and the Bears were eliminated from the playoffs. So.
We do love the Bears, though. We are.
I mean, they didn't go to the playoffs.
Keep Justin Fields.
A little more specific, but anyways, that's just some of the things that we've been thinking about this past week. And that's a little bit of what we've been up to. But that all aside, it's time for us to jump into some film news of this week.
I got one this week.
Record scratch.
I got one this week. The thing is, when these episodes come out, our film news is kind of a little outdated already. But I did see there's been some drama with the Scream 7 movie, which I love the Scream films.
Drama with Scream 7?
Yeah. So Jenny Ortega dropped out. She left because of like conflicts and stuff like that. They fired Melissa Barrera due to some things that she had said. And now the director that they had slated, Christopher Landon, he has left the film as well. So people are dropping like flies out of that film. So I don't know if it's going to happen or not at this point. We'll have to see. Maybe they'll just shelf it.
That is pretty intense. When there's filmmakers working on a movie, I hate to say this, there's always drama going on with so many movies that are being made. That's really a lot like what we were talking about on our last episode with, oh my gosh, Jordan, the dude that plays Kang.
Oh. Well, my mind has gone totally blank. But yes, all of the drama with the MCU. And
Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, very much like what goes on with Jonathan Majors and his role in playing Kang.
It's always in the pre-production stages, right? Before, actually,
it's
also
hopefully just in the pre-production
sometimes
stages.
when filming has already started and they have to replace someone and refilm all their shots. That's happened before too. But I feel like it's more likely in pre-production when you're still trying to figure stuff out, yada yada yada. There can be some drama. So we have Scream 7 drama. That's the only news I found, though.
That's interesting. Some of the stuff that I saw has been going on was one of the big things that I saw was the release recently. Big news that's going on. We're in 2024. All of a sudden, I'm going to be very specific about this. Steamboat Willie is now public domain, is a part of the public domain. And everybody's thinking that all of a sudden Mickey Mouse is, open for grabs, that they can just put Mickey Mouse on everything or that they can release that as part of their own product. So here we have a slasher film dropping, showcasing Mickey Mouse, and it's Mickey Mouse shown as Steamboat Willie.
Right.
It's like
That's
Steamboat
the
Willie
only
garb.
version that's in public domain, not like the Mickey of today.
They're still calling it Mickey Mouse, but it's Mickey Mouse shown as Steamboat Willie. So it's a horror film.
I mean, we expected
Steamboat Willie
this, right?
style.
Like, we talked about this after we watched that Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. Like, as soon as all of these really classic, really well-known characters go into public domain, it's just going to be people, like, jumping on it to do, alternate versions and horror films. And
the film's called Mickey's Mousetrap.
Ooh, like the game? Did you ever play Mousetrap as a kid?
Oh, the game Mousetrap?
Yeah, where it was
I
like,
never played
what's that called? A Rorschach, where it's like, like the domino effect. You do one thing and it goes to another thing. And I don't remember what that's called. But that game stressed me out.
Yeah, I know of the game Mousetrap. I just never played Mousetrap. But
what kind of childhood did you have?
My point being, don't be confused. Don't think that the Mickey Mouse himself is open for grabs and that you can just start putting Mickey Mouse on everything. It's Steamboat Willie. You can find more information on the internet that
Google
explains it in full detail. It's not just Mickey Mouse in all of his glory. It's Steamboat Willie from the originating Steamboat Willie cartoon. It's very interesting to see all of the stuff that's going down with that. Other than that, apparently Jack Black is joining Jason Momoa in the new Minecraft film. I wasn't even aware there was a Minecraft film coming out until recently.
What's the plot gonna be? Isn't the point of the game to like survive?
Yes. Yep.
Who does Jack Black play?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like the main character? Is he like a baddie, like those little green things?
Yeah, and who?
And who's
I'm not
Jason
sure.
Momoa?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, who is
it animated or live action? Give me the answers to all this.
Who are you? Like a 5-year-old?
I love the Minecraft. Tell me about
I
the
love
movie.
Minecraft.
No, I've never played Minecraft in my life.
Apparently, Pedro Pascal is playing Steve.
Oh, I do love Pedro Pascal.
There's not much details that have been released on the Minecraft film, but you got some of the cast members already
We'll update you all
released.
as we learn more.
And Matt Berry's going to be in it too.
Oh, he's great. He's got a perfect voice. You most devilish man in New York City. I can't do it. I cannot do a Matt Berry voice, but I love him.
So that'll be interesting. Yeah, I mean, the whole premise of Minecraft, essentially, when you play the video game, is you are obviously a pixelated, blocky, very blocky, pixely character in a very blocky, pixely world, and you're put in there, and it's just explore this whole open sandbox world
survive.
And just break the blocks to try and survive, because when night falls, then the zombies come out, and they will try and eat you and destroy you. So you have to build up your own little world and make sure that what you build will keep you safe. And
I have seen videos of like what people have built, and some people are amazing. Like I've seen complete like Studio Ghibli worlds created within Minecraft or Hogwarts, you know. It's wild what people can do. Because
the kind of essential items that you can get in that game, you can get pretty much anything in that game. So,
but I'm sure as the years have gone on too, they've updated and added more.
It just starts off with, you know, trying to create food for yourself to replenish your health, because over time your health will deplete, and as time progresses, you want to replenish your health with food. You can have a farm with little chickens and cows and pigs and things like that. So it just gets better and better over time. But with all that being said, that brings us into our film of the week, which is Saltburn.
I am so excited to talk about this movie. I essentially forced Adam to watch this and to do an episode on it. I'm ready.
And again, not the kind of Saltburn of salt on a snail.
No.
It is a
fancy English home.
It's a fancy English Saltburn.
Estate.
So just to give a brief overview of what the film is, Saltburn is a black comedy psychological thriller. That is quite the pile of genres right there.
I feel like that's just how it is nowadays. They throw every genre.
Put them all on there.
Yeah. Because remember last week? Like biographical, sports, drama, video game, blah, blah, blah.
I'll remember that the next time we produce a movie. It's going to be a
everything.
Psychological action
romantic,
thriller comedy romance
psychological thriller slasher.
Just
animated.
Make a whole chain. So black comedy, psychological thriller, written and directed and produced by Emerald Fennell.
Yeah.
Starring Barry Keoghan, Jacob Elordi, Rosamund Pike, Richard E. Grant, Allison Oliver, and Archie Madekwe.
We forgot to look up how to pronounce it.
Well, it's going to be pronounced like that.
It sounds right to me. Can I just call out Richard E. Grant? That man, he hasn't been in a lot, but whenever he shows up in something, I love him. He was in Spice World. Do you remember, Adam? He's the manager of the Spice Girls in Spice World.
I don't remember that, but that was quite some time ago.
Yeah, we did review that.
And we did just watch a movie that included Archie and one of the Spice Girls.
Yeah. See? All connected. In this movie, we have a really great cameo by Carey Mulligan, who starred in Emerald Fennell's first film, Promising Young Woman. So that was nice to have that little cameo of Carey Mulligan showing back up.
Yeah. So the basic synopsis of Saltburn, set in early 2000s England, the film focuses on a university student.
Oliver Quick.
Oliver Quick. You know, I was going to say Oliver Quick. The name sounds like he's some superhero ninja or alley robber. Like,
I think it's
Oliver
a very
Quick.
typical British name.
It also makes me think.
It seems like that, but I think to the British, they're probably, it's like John Smith. I feel like it's probably a very common, like.
It also makes me think of, why can't I think
Jonathan Swift.
No, it makes me think like, when you're a jet all the way.
That's West Side Story. That's in the U.S. What does that make you think about?
It just makes me think like he's got to have that like Swift like dancing like da 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 da.
I mean, there is
Oliver
some dancing in this movie. Oliver Quick does have some moves, as we see.
Well, and we'll get to that.
Finish the synopsis first.
Okay.
We're going to get sidetracked a lot in this episode, people.
Back to my point. It focuses on a university student, Oliver Quick, who becomes obsessed with a wealthy fellow student within his college, who invites him to spend the summer at his eccentric family's estate.
Which is Saltburn.
That is Saltburn.
Before we get into it, can I give you another little fun fact about Emerald Fennell? I don't know if you know this, Adam. Did you know that on top of creating these two wonderful films, she's also an actress?
She was in Promising Young Woman.
But not even that, Adam. She was in Barbie. She plays Midge, the pregnant Barbie.
Yeah.
And she's also in The Crown. She plays Camilla, who's now what? Dowager Queen, Regent Queen. I don't know what it was called. But she played Camilla in The Crown. So she's a very successful actress on top of making two wonderful movies.
Well, that is very subjective, but
I'm going to give my opinion. No, this movie, like I said, I'm really, really excited to talk about this movie. Adam and I both went into it not really knowing what the plot was or what was going to happen.
I had no idea.
Which I think is how you have to go into this movie, though. Like, you should not look up anything on this movie before you watch it.
I knew nothing going into this movie, and I'm very glad it was that way.
Yeah, because then when stuff happens, as we'll get into it, you're shocked. You're appalled. You're disgusted. And you're so intrigued. That's how I felt for the whole movie, at least. It's just, it's so good. This movie, it's all about like obsession and like voyeurism. And I don't know. It was so good. I really liked it, if you couldn't tell.
And we're certainly going to get into all of those details as we continue onward.
Don't watch it with your family, though. That's the one thing I'll say. There's been a lot of TikToks because Emerald Fennell kind of like trolled people and said like, oh, it's the perfect family film to watch over the holidays.
Oh, God.
And so people watched it with their parents, and you should not watch this with your parents. Quite disturbing. So
yeah, to kick this movie off, it starts off with Barry Keoghan's character, Oliver Quick.
Oliver Quick. You gotta do the moves with it. Oliver Quick.
Oliver Quick. Like I said, I think of that name like he's some kind of alley cat strike, like going around like he's gonna rob somebody. He's some like thief in the night. Ooh, Oliver Quick.
But that's not how he's portrayed in the beginning.
He's really not.
He's like a meek, quiet, nerdy Oxford student who seems to kind of be like a scholarship student. You know, he's just there, but he doesn't fit in with kind of the like aristocratic and upper class of his fellow students. He's a loner.
And I really got that, too, when I was watching the movie.
Barry Keoghan is so good. Like, even just the way he portrays it, and like you said, the way that it's set up, and you kind of like how his character looks and how the people around him act.
I thought it was interesting to see in the movie the way that this was starting, because I really just wasn't sure what to expect. It just kind of seemed like not to say this is a typical drama film by any means, but it did seem like it was kind of starting in that direction. Like, okay, this is a drama film. We got Barry Keoghan's character. He's the loner. He doesn't know if he's going to get any kind of friend. He's lonely. There's really no other way I can put it. It's just kind of like he's got no one here to hang out with at the school. He's trying to make friends with people. He's trying to socialize. No one wants to accept him except the other nerdy kid. The ugly nerdy kid.
I didn't say ugly. I said the other nerdy
I thought you said ugly nerdy kid. I'm like, wow, that's really going deep. Nerdy kid. Dang, Laura. Wow. But no, the one other nerd at the school wants to be his friend.
Well, you know, they're kind of like forced together because it's just them on their own. You know, they have no one else to be with. So why not?
Well, Oliver Quick does not seem more. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't seem like he wants to be this guy's friend, truthfully. He does talk with him because they're just kind of put together.
But even when he talks to him, you feel like he's standoffish to the guy a little bit. Like, you're annoying me.
Yeah.
And you can tell, like, he kind of watches this group of Felix, Jacob Elordi's character, and his friends. You can see he's like watching and seeming like he like wants to be like them. He wants to be part of their group.
There's the friend who is Michael Gavey, and he's trying to become friends with Oliver Quick, or he thinks he's friends with Oliver Quick, and he's constantly trying to go up to him. he must be on like the lowest on a scale of 1 to 10. There's Michael Gavey, who's like 0.5. There's Oliver Quick that's at 1, and Oliver constantly trying to be like, okay, how can I be with the 9s and the 10s?
Cool kids.
Yeah, always trying to get in their little circle, and Michael constantly being like, hey, over here, come sit with me, come be over here. So,
and luckily for Oliver, he's able to befriend the 9s and 10s, specifically Felix. So we see Felix on the side of the road, his bike, he has a flat tire, right, or something.
Yeah.
And he's running late for something, and Oliver loans him his bike. He's like, here, take my bike. I'll bring yours back to like the dorms. And Felix just is like, man, that is so nice. You are such a good guy. So later at the bar, he sees Oliver and he's like, oh, mate, come on over. And the friendship blossoms.
Yeah. And Oliver is so happy about this that they're constantly now going to start hanging out.
It was like cute little meet cute. A nice little meet cute, as we call it in the romance books.
Yeah. It's kind of like we were watching the movie, and I believe Laura had made the comment that this kind of seemed like Call Me By Your Name.
In the beginning.
In the beginning. In the beginning. As we continue on, you'll soon realize that it's not always going to be like Call Me By Your Name. In the beginning, seemed a little like that.
What I think is really interesting is I was listening to some interviews by Emerald Fennell talking about this movie, and she was saying that one of the things that she really wanted to do when writing this film was that she wanted to make a movie where the viewer like sympathized with the unlikable people. So meaning like the people that you can't stand or who are like abhorrent and, you know, the wealthy and just like, oh, look at them. Like they're so frivolous, yada, yada, yada. She wanted to make a movie where it's like we felt like we could fall in love with them and start to understand them in spite of their cruelty or like their kind of strangeness to us all. And I think this is where that kind of begins, right? Because we see Felix, and he is this upper class who you assume is like snobby and going to be like an asshole or something. But we see in the bar what happens is he brings Oliver over, despite his cousin, Felix's cousin Farley, like really hating Oliver, honestly, and kind of being a prick to him. Felix brings him over and even like helps him out when he's Oliver's told to buy a round and he doesn't have the money to cover the round. So Felix kind of gives him the money to do it. And like through this scene, we really start to, at least I did, like you start to fall in love with Felix's character. You're like, oh, even though he's like this rich, you know, frivolous butthole, maybe, I don't know, you're like, oh, but he's such a nice guy now. Like you're like, oh, just love this man.
Yeah, and as you watch the movie, you're also thinking of Farley's character, that he is nothing but a constant jerk.
Yeah.
And as I was watching, I was just thinking, man, hope that, you know, Oliver can somehow just jog away from Farley, even if he's going to be hanging out with Felix, at least get him away from Farley.
Which is kind of impossible, right? Because Felix and Farley are cousins, but...
Right. But I wasn't entirely thinking that would be the case for the entire movie. I was thinking, like, you know, if he's going to be hanging out with Felix, they can at least, you know, go do their own thing, or if Felix is inviting him to be at his place or something, then perhaps it's like, okay, well, that gives you a little bit of privacy, but then little do I know that it's going to be like, okay, well, then Farley actually is going to be there the entire time. Yeah. I had no idea that was the case.
You know, he really hangs on Felix's coattails, I feel like. And we kind of get a better understanding about that as the movie goes on, too, kind of his situation and his family. But as we're going through these scenes at Oxford, we're also learning more about Oliver. So Oliver kind of starts to tell his story to Felix in a way. And we learned that he has parents who have a lot of substance abuse. And it seems like he really didn't have like the best family life. And then while he's there, his father actually passes away. And he goes to Felix kind of distraught, like despite the fact that he didn't like his parents, you know, it's still hard when one of them dies. And Felix kind of consoles him after his father dies. And it's from that then Felix invites him to kind of spend the break at his family's estate in Saltburn, because Oliver doesn't want to go home to his family.
Exactly. And this is what first takes us into the real Saltburn. Literally, the mansion is called Saltburn.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about this arrival at Saltburn because, again, I watched this really, really, really good interview that Fennell did with Vanity Fair, I believe, where she kind of broke down like this opening scene of Oliver showing up at Saltburn. So Oliver shows up to this like grand and, imposing estate. And we walk in and there's this terrifying butler. And, Oliver feels like very, I would say, unwelcome in a way. But when you're looking at the house, it's just like the opulence but coupled with the like absurdity. So, the opening shot, we see kind of the grand foyer or whatever we're calling it. From a back, we see a lot of the room, right? And hanging from the chandelier is like a fly trap full of dead flies. And then you look in the background and there's these, fancy marble busts that are wearing hats. Like they put hats on it. And it's just this, like, I just love the way Emerald called it. I'll have to look up the word. She called it gubbins. I believe that's what she called it. Which is what she calls like the stuff of life. And it's just like, even though it's this fancy house, this family lives there. So there's gonna be the stuff that they use in their daily life, right? Like cigarettes and dirty laundry thrown around. And so it's just so interesting. I want to go back and watch the movie again too, to kind of view these scenes and see what I can find in the kind of in the background of all this just like gubbins and extra stuff of life that's thrown around.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about. And of course, when a family of that nature lives in a mansion, I love that she would think of it like that because, of course, they can't have this pristine hotel 99% of the time when there's going to be people around there that are just, throwing their trash around. You could have butlers and whatnot that are going to keep a place clean, but at the same time,
you have a whole family living there and doing, day-to-day activities.
Exactly.
I think what was also interesting was that she mentioned like even the aspect ratio of the film, the way that they filmed it is done in such a way that you were like, you see the really tall ceilings in the home and how like grand and imposing it is on these characters who look like so minuscule and compared to the house in certain scenes.
Absolutely.
I thought it was good. The cinematographer for this movie was actually Linus Sandgren, who is the Oscar-winning cinematographer for La La Land.
Ooh. And even though that you have distaste for
I don't like La La Land. I wasn't going to say it, Adam. I think I've said it on the podcast before, so... So we've arrived at Saltburn now, and Felix gives Oliver like a quick little tour of the house, right? And we see like the green room and the long gallery and kind of all these like random rooms. They're bedrooms and they share a bedroom in the middle. And I want to point out one little bit that happened kind of in this scene. At Oxford, in the beginning of the movie, Felix's character has an eyebrow piercing. And then when they arrive at Saltburn, that has disappeared. And the reasoning for that is that Fennell wanted Felix's character to have that piercing because she was trying to create this like uncomfortability with the movie being set 15 years prior, where it's like close enough to our lifetime that we remember it, but it's far enough away that everything seems kind of garish, right? Like there's Live Strong bracelets in this movie and like the bad fashion and whatnot. So she really wanted him to have the eyebrow piercing, but then like other producers and bigwigs at the studio were like, no, he can't have that eyebrow piercing. Like we cannot have that. So her way to compromise was to have him remove it when they end up at Saltburn.
It's an interesting thought that he would have it while he's at Oxford and then...
When he's with his mom, right?
Yeah, when he's with his mom, like, no, I can't have it now.
I can't have it. I mean, he even tells Barry, like, he's like, or not Barry, sorry, that's the actor's real name, Barry Keoghan. He tells Oliver, you had to shave, like, my mother's disgusted by 5 o'clock shadows.
Yeah, it's interesting, the whole change of spectrum while they're at the mansion, but the reception that Oliver gets from Felix's parents is just very sort of astounding, that Felix's parents are just so dare I say, in love with Oliver's character. They're
Yeah.
just, wow, Oliver,
They're
you're
just-
so great.
They're like so eccentric and kooky. You know, his mom specifically, she can tell she's like very, I don't know the word that I want to say. She's, in a way, she's very gives herself a lot of self-importance, right? Because she says certain things in the movie like, oh, that song was written about me. You know, like she thinks like she has this big importance in the world. But at the same time, she does seem very caring and very loving. Like she immediately embraces Oliver, as does Felix's dad. And they're just, again, it's this type of character that Fennell has created where it's like, you shouldn't like them, but for some reason you do.
Yet this is where the unraveling sort of begins of understanding what kind of character Oliver Quick really is. Because first, when we arrive to Saltburn, it's about understanding the family and who this family is at Saltburn. Who are these characters? What do they really mean? And who is Felix's parents? What can we get from them? But as they start talking to Oliver, we kind of start to understand that. But as the movie continues onward, then we start to realize that Oliver is not just, you know, so to speak, the reciprocator from these other characters, but he's more the persuader of making them feel what he wants them to feel.
Yeah.
What he wants them to feel from him. And that's when we realize as the viewers that it's like, wow, like Oliver Quick is like like a criminal mastermind here.
Yeah.
Like he is the one who is like the communicator, like a psychologist of like mind over matter here. Like he can make people do anything he wants.
I would agree. I feel like when we get to Saltburn, it's where we start to have this like click go off in our brain where we're like, this isn't the movie I was expecting it to be. Like there is something else going on here, you know? And really that comes into play in the very next scene. So I guess we should say the other family that's at the house. So we have Felix and his parents. We also have his sister Venetia, who just kind of seems like a party girl, druggy kind of vibe going on. Farley is there, the cousin. And then also we have Carey Mulligan's character who's there. I think her name is Pamela, right?
Yes.
And she's like this destitute friend of Elspeth, the mom, who they've kind of like Oliver, have taken in to kind of shelter while she's having a rough time. So that's kind of everyone who's at the house at this point. But the scene right after he meets his family, as Adam was saying, this is where things kind of start to turn and we start to notice something. And one of those things that we start to notice is Oliver's obsession with Felix. And we're starting to understand like he is truly obsessed with this man. So as I mentioned, they shared a bathroom and we see Jacob Elordi, Felix in the bathtub, pleasuring himself. And what's happening? Oliver is creepily just watching.
He has got to see it all. So he
standing
is
there just
Yep, he is
staring.
just looking through the door, watching Felix go to town in the bathtub. And, you know, as viewers, of course, they're just having, you know, the audience see it all, you know?
And like I said, it's voyeurism. Like there's a lot of voyeurism going on in this movie. And that's what we have here. And then when the first part of this movie where I like audibly and like physically was appalled happens, where I was looking at Adam and I was like, we're not doing that. Like that's what's happening. Like, not that we're not doing that, but I mean like she's not doing that in this movie, you know? We see, Felix gets out of the bathtub and starts to drain the water and leaves to his room. Oliver comes in and starts slurping up the bathtub water from the bottom of the tub.
Yeah, and like licking the drain.
Oh, because it's like mixed with, you know, like Felix's cum. And I was sitting there. I was like, oh, Adam, no.
Yeah, and that's just the beginning of what is yet to come. It just keeps...
It keeps going. During the day, right? Like, during the day, things seem happy and upbeat. Like, it's just these 4 teenagers, Venetia, Farley, Felix, and Oliver, like, hanging out at their estate. They lay by the pool. They sit by fields and read books. They listen to music. But then at night's when all this, like, stuff happens.
It gets more intense because he's talking to people as this goes on, though, because it's not just him by himself anymore as these scenes continue on.
His friends. Oh, but the next big scene that happens, like I said, right, we're seeing this montage of them just like having a great time at Saltburn. And then another night, he's up in his room, again, creeping, looking out the window, and he sees Venetia down in the garden by herself. And so he goes down to like see how she is. And we have the next like shock of this film.
Yeah, they start to have a little discussion with each other, and he's playing it up, kind of coming on to Venetia.
He's a manipulator.
Doing
We're
a little
seeing
seduction.
He's a charmer in a way. Like,
this is where,
like a cult leader.
This is where it really begins to become very apparent that he's using seduction and his
like a way to
toy
view
senses.
As like an other. Sometimes he seems like an innocent, like little helpless man, and then here with Venetia and with stuff with Farley, he's like this commandeering, like seductor, and it's so weird. He's able to like manipulate the way that he portrays himself based on who he's currently trying to manipulate.
Yeah, so he's talking with Venetia and really playing things up, and she's into it, and then all of a sudden he starts to perform oral sex on Venetia. And
she's on her period. Yeah. And you know, Emerald Fennell has said that she feels this is a vampire movie. And this is a scene that really does it.
But Farley witnesses this and informs Felix.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Felix the next day is like pissed at Oliver, right? Because he's like, you're supposed to be my friend, but now you're out here messing with my sister? How dare you? How dare you?
And Oliver's response to that is just like, I didn't do anything.
I didn't do anything.
That's a lie.
Farley's a liar. Do you trust him or me?
And of course, Felix like, I trust you.
He's like, oh man, you're right. Farley must have lied to me. What a bastard.
Again, Oliver Quick being good at just playing everything out.
Yeah, and even so, and then to go any even further, right? We learned right after that it comes out that they learned that Farley was sending emails to Sotheby's, which is an auction house, to try and like pawn off some of the expensive art and artworks and stuff that's at the house. And so the parents learn of this and they kick Farley out. And at this point, we don't know that Oliver did it, right? But even me, watching this, I was like, oh, Oliver did something.
Even right before that, too, Oliver went to Farley's room.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that bit.
And came on to Farley while Farley was in bed.
And like threatened while sexually pleasing him.
Yeah. Threatened Farley while coming.
Are you going to be a good boy?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really intense.
It's so good.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to bring this up later, but I'll bring it up now because you're laughing at me saying that. This is exactly like this last season of Ink Master that we watched, season finale. What's his name, Adam? Freddie. Freddie made a piece of art as a tattoo that was like, that some of the judges, who shall not be named, made comments that they were like, I want to puke. Like, I'm so disgusted by this. And that's because Freddie did something like different and something new. And it was a piece of art that like, you reacted to, right? You should have emotions. It shouldn't just be like same old, every other thing, you know, like, oh, there's another classic painting of a still life, right? Like art should move you and should give you reactions, whether those reactions are good or bad. And I feel very similar about this movie. There are many, many things I loved about this movie, the way it looks as we go on. And then there's things in this movie that like disgusted me. But the fact that I had that kind of reaction to it shows like how good of a movie this was, in my opinion.
Well, after Farley got evicted from the mansion,
Oliver cemented his place in the family.
Yeah. I find that, it's just things like that. It's kind of like, okay, so you come on to one person, that's your way of making yourself secure with them. You go on to another person as a threat, and then you get them evicted. And then with Felix, you're just spying on them in the darkness and then lapping it up afterwards.
Yeah.
It's just, you are a
and
creep.
just trying to seem like the perfect friend.
Yeah,
you know,
you are a creep.
And then also he like even charms the parents, right? Like
Yeah.
he says certain things to Elspeth, like, oh, Venetia's obviously jealous of you because you're beautiful, you
Yeah.
know, and like he's wormed his way in to be like a valuable member of the family.
Yeah, he's a creepo. He is a very talented creepo. And now the parents at breakfast or lunch, I can't remember, but they are like, let's plan a big old birthday party for Oliver.
And let's make it a costume party so I can wear my suit of armor.
Yeah. We'll make a big old birthday party. And so they're all excited about it. Okay, great. And Felix surprises Oliver with a trip to see his estranged mother. He absolutely surprises Oliver with this. Oliver's like, what?
Right.
I
So
don't-
Felix believes, right, that Oliver's father is dead and his mom has had a lot of substance abuse. And Felix picks up Oliver's phone one day and has a call and talks to his mother, and she seems to be like wanting to reconcile, and she just loves her son. And Felix takes it to mean that she has like recovered, and she's trying to be a better person. So he's like, well, let me take Oliver to his mother so they can reconnect.
Mhm. And in doing so, in surprising Oliver about this, he is totally taken aback. He does not want to do this, but he essentially only agrees because it's Felix.
Well, he's already in the car. It's not like he can stop him.
Yeah.
They're already on the way there.
Yeah.
What is he going to do?
Yeah. And so it's happening. They're going to see his parents, and then when they get there, all breaks loose. I mean,
Yeah.
everything is
Well,
unveiled.
Felix's view of Oliver is finally cracked, right?
Exactly.
Because he learns Oliver didn't come from like a troubled, impoverished family.
He's middle class.
His parents, live in a middle class neighborhood. His father is very much still alive. Neither had any substance abuse. They're kind of like the typical quote unquote perfect looking, middle class family.
Yeah. And so where do you go from there at that point? It's
Right. And at this point, Felix, he's just like absolutely horrified by the lie that Oliver has done and how he's kind of manipulated his way in. And he's like done with Oliver. Felix is like, he even says to him, like, you make my blood run cold. Like, I want nothing to do with you. He said, you come back to Saltburn and we have this party because my parents have planned it and I don't want to upset them. But after this party, like, I want you gone and I don't want to see you again.
So Oliver's pretty upset about that, and he wants to make amends with Felix, but in trying to do so at the party, he goes to see Felix, and Felix just rejects him when he tries to do that. And then after he walks away from Felix after that, the party goes on. The night turns over.
Yeah, and you
then-
can just tell like Oliver's miserable at this party,
Yeah.
right? Like when he's blowing out his candles, and just like, and he doesn't know anyone there, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's all these people that the family knew. No one he really cares about. Farley comes back. Farley wants nothing to do with him. Felix wants nothing to do with him. Venetia's pissed at him, right? Because he stopped like pursuing her in a way.
Right.
So yeah, we have this scene where Oliver comes upon Felix in the labyrinth. That's how fancy Saltburn is. They have a hedge maze going on. In the center of the hedge maze too, I wanted to bring up, there's like this giant Minotaur statue, right? And the body for the Minotaur statue is actually referenced from Barry Keoghan's body. So it's kind of this like, he is this like Minotaur that's in the maze, like overlooking on them all. But yeah, we see that scene and Felix is like, get the fuck away from me. Oliver leaves and he's sad boy. And then shit really hits the fan.
Yes. And then when the party is over and the next day comes, then Felix is found dead.
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 In the hedge maze.
In the hedge maze. He didn't have to go very far. He died right there.
Died
right where
there.
he was.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, at this point, when watching it, I think you and I both, Adam, were like, Oliver did it. Like, we didn't see that on film, but we're like, Oliver killed him. He had to have.
It seems pretty apparent at this point. Yeah. Like, okay, Oliver's got the personality. Like, he's offing people. Like,
But Oliver is able to manipulate the family to think that it was caused by Farley. So Farley was at the party doing drugs, like cocaine and stuff. And he somehow convinces the parents that Farley gave Felix these drugs that killed him. So even still, he's able to manipulate his way out.
Yeah. And Felix's dad is like, get out now. Like, this is...
Can we talk about that scene, though, when they're sitting in the dining room, when he kind of tells Farley to leave, and when the coroners are like taking Felix's body away? That scene I thought was done so well. It's just like so awkward watching it, and you're like so upset by it, right? Because the family, they all have gone in to sit to dinner or breakfast, I mean, like it's a normal day, right? They're like having a normal conversation, the parents are trying to, while the coroners are taking their son's dead body across the windows in front of them.
Well, and Oliver's sitting there like it's just a walk in the park, basically, and then Venetia's pouring wine like, over the glass,
she's lost
over the table.
She's done.
The butler's trying to close the curtain and can't get it to close.
Oh my gosh. And like when he does close the curtains, everyone's like bathed in this like red light. And while this body's being taken across by the coroners, and it's just, oh my gosh, it was such a good scene. I thought it was done so well.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see. And then from that, moving forward, after that, then Oliver's making his way over to Venetia next, essentially, because she's contemplating suicide at this point.
Well, you can tell she's just so upset from her brother's death. Like she's upset at how her parents have reacted to it in a way, and how she realizes like Oliver has manipulated his way in.
Yeah, and Oliver is essentially letting Venetia know that, I'm not sure to say that he should say he's sorry for her, but it's kind of like, okay, well, if you want to commit suicide, then,
it's just, he's just, again, just manipulating to control people.
Yeah.
But we skipped over, Adam, a very, very important scene. The grave.
Oh, yes.
That happens before Venetia.
Yes, it does.
Oh my gosh.
As they bury Felix in the grave, and again, more trauma, more sadness, all for Felix being buried, everyone very depressed, and everything happening there. Everyone walks off after Felix is buried, except for Oliver, and all on his own, he, collapses onto the grave site, and then takes his shirt off and takes his pants off too, and
humps the grave.
Oh
my gosh, this was another scene where I was like, this is not happening. And I've been watching lots of interviews and like TikToks about this movie and stuff, and that scene was actually improvised by Barry Keoghan. So he asked Fennell if it could be a closed set. So he asked everyone to leave, and he's like, I just want to see like where this takes me, like what I think Oliver would do. And breaks down on top of the grave, the pile of dirt, and has sex with the dirt, essentially. And it's just like, oh my God, it's just wild. So wild.
I think as weird as it is, it's a great reflection of the character in the movie. I will say that. Honestly, I think it does show really the mental state of his character and who he was throughout the entire film. It's really what Oliver was throughout the entire movie.
It starts off so happy, and through the movie we've started to spiral into madness. Like it all just like goes nuts, and you learn who Oliver really is.
Well, yeah, and all he really wanted throughout the entire thing, other than what he really is, I mean, he wanted to be with Felix simultaneously as he was crazy. But
did he really want Felix though? Like, I think that's a question of this movie. Like, did he actually like love and want to be with Felix, or was he just obsessed with the idea of Felix and like what he had? Because I think I would argue that he didn't actually want to be with Felix. He wanted to be Felix.
So with that, he's going to just hump the ground.
Well, I think it's because he's upset and kind of mourning like what he lost in a way. He never able was like to take that from Felix. But I don't think he actually loved Felix. I think he kind of hated the whole family. I think he thought they were all despicable. But he just wanted to be them or to have what they have, to have the power that they have.
Well, as you get to the end of the movie, then...
Well, yeah. We got to keep going. We got to go back to Venetia.
I mean, Venetia wanted to commit suicide, and essentially Oliver was saying, what happened, and if that's what you're looking to do, then...
Well, and she, like we said earlier, like, she no longer is enamored by Oliver. She sees him for what he is and the monster that he is.
Right.
And so Oliver walks away. And then the next morning...
Yeah. And then she does end up committing suicide. So.
Well, yeah, we see that her wrists were slit in the bathtub.
Yeah. And we're not sure entirely what happened there, but she is gone.
Yeah.
And then as that progresses, then we hear that Felix's dad then wants to talk to Oliver, so they go up to an office space, and Felix's dad is essentially asking Oliver, okay, how can I buy you out of here?
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, get out of my house. What do you want? And Oliver is confused and wondering, well, what's going on?
He's like, well, Elspeth needs me. You know, like,
Elspeth needs me.
She needs me. I can't leave. What will it do to her? And the dad's just like, no.
How much money do you want? Like,
and we don't
seriously.
know if he takes the money or not, but he does leave the house.
He does leave the house.
I would assume he took money.
Yeah. And then years later, he's in a cafe and Elspeth comes inside. And so they run into one another. And she says, hey, why don't you come back to Saltburn? And also... we learned that Felix's dad died.
Yeah, the father had died. So it's just Elspeth left in this giant estate by herself. And like you said, she runs into Oliver at this cafe, like in London, presumably, right? And she's like, oh, just come back and visit, like for old time's sake. Come on back.
So he does. He comes back to Saltburn. Him and Elspeth are together. Not together, but they are spending time together in Saltburn. And lo and behold, Elspeth is about to pass away. I mean,
she falls like deathly ill.
She's deathly ill and is hooked up to a life support machine. And now Oliver is breaking down the whole story for us in the end of the film. And essentially, the way that he tells the story is
he manipulated the whole thing.
Yeah, he says he had this planned the entire time, basically
from the very beginning, from Oxford,
from when he first came to Oxford. He had plotted to pop a hole in Felix's tire and cause that bike accident, just so that he could
worm his way in,
help his way with Felix there, and start that friendship. And moving forward from there, he had plotted everything, little detail.
Getting Farley kicked out because of the Sotheby emails. He manipulated. I mean, then we learned, right? He's the one that killed Felix in the hedge maze. So he gave him, it was like champagne or something that was filled with copious amounts of cocaine. So killed Felix.
He left razor blades by Venetia.
No, I think he killed her.
Yeah.
He didn't leave razor blades. I think he slit her wrists.
Oh, I read that he left razor blades.
Oh, I took it as he slit her wrist and made it look like a suicide.
No, when I was researching it, it was said that he left razor blades there.
Oh, well, either way, he did that. Did he kill the dad, though? That's, the dad just seemed to die from like an illness while he wasn't even around. But I'm like, what if he somehow manipulated and even got the dad to die?
He had orchestrated his meeting Felix at Oxford, puncturing his bicycle tire, murdered him by poisoning his drink after his rejection in the maze, kept the razor blades near Venetia's bath after implying she should commit suicide, and fabricated the email which resulted in Farley's expulsion from the estate.
Oh, see, and mine says he's seen holding a razor blade near Venetia's bath after she had passed out in the bathtub. To me, that means he slit her wrists. We'll have to rewatch it. We'll rewatch it and let you know next episode what we think.
He planned his encounter with Elspeth at the cafe.
Just so that he could get Saltburn, right? That's his end game. Like, he's manipulated his way into being in the will because Elspeth has no one left, so she leaves Saltburn to him. And as she's on her deathbed, Oliver crawls on top of her and yanks the ventilator right out of her throat.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wild.
Yeah.
And then we get arguably one of the best scenes in the movie.
The final scene of him dancing completely naked for an entire song track of
There's a murder on the dance floor. Better not kill the groove. And he did not use a prosthetic. That is his real ding dong.
No, and you see it a few times. You see it a few times throughout the movie. So
yeah, and he's just nakedly dancing through Saltburn because now it's all his and he doesn't have to answer to anyone or deal with anyone. And he's just dancing his way through the house.
Yeah, it's quite a bit.
Oh, it's what a movie.
I also read that apparently one of Emerald's influences for this movie, or a few of her influences, I should say, included A Clockwork Orange by Stanley Kubrick. And another one of the influences was, I believe this is Cruel Intentions.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting that those were influences for the movie. But I
could
see it.
Cruel Intentions.
I could see A Clockwork Orange as well, especially with some of the cinematography with the maze and everything too.
Yeah. And I haven't seen either of these other things, but people have also been saying that the plot is kind of a little bit similar to Brideshead Revisited or The Talented Mr. Ripley. Mm-hmm. Again, I haven't seen either of those movies, but
I've seen
it's kind
film
of
critics
similar.
mention that it's very much like Talented Mr.
Similar
Ripley.
to those.
So with that being said, I think we should jump into some of the reviews that this film has been currently receiving. First and foremost, what Rotten Tomatoes is saying about the film right now. 71% from critics and a 79% from the audience. I'm a little surprised that they're so close right now. Usually you get the few and far between the critics and the audience.
Yeah,
but
I think it's just because this movie has had such an impact on people, like good or bad, you know? And I think this is definitely one of those movies where you either love it or hate it. It's not, there's no in between on this. You're not like, oh, it was all right. You're either like, no, that was a bad movie, or like, that was a great movie, in my opinion.
You think that?
Yeah, I do.
That's fair. It's fair. I'm curious to know what...
Roger Ebert gave it 3 stars. If that's what you're looking up.
That is what I was saying. It is what I was wondering.
I knew I could read your mind. Yeah, they gave it 3 stars. And, you know, people are predicting that it will be nominated for some Oscars, for some Academy Awards. It has already been nominated for 2 Golden Globes. So Barry Keoghan was nominated for Best Actor and Rosamund Pike was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Rightly so, as they should be. So, and I think the Golden Globes are like next weekend or something, or this weekend. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, with that being said, I believe that takes us into our Slurps Up or Slurps Down section. Slurps Up meaning we think this was a good movie, we recommend it, and we think you should go check it out. And Slurps Down meaning we do not think it was good, we do not recommend it, and we think that you should avoid it at all costs. Laura, Slurps Up or Slurps Down?
Do I even need to say? I think it's been pretty evident throughout this episode. This is absolutely a Slurps Up for me. I think it was an amazing movie. Like I said, you are so emotionally invested and you have so many like reactions to what's happening in this movie. Those reactions, be them good or bad, that I just think like a movie that affects you that much has to be something that's worthwhile watching. And on top of that, you have an amazing cast who is perfectly casted in this film and who portrays their characters so well. It's a beautiful film, like shot, the way it's shot, the colors, the aesthetics that they use in the house, just absolutely beautiful film. And yeah, just like the wild twists and the turns that you get from it. It just, it's like everything I want in a thriller, honestly. I would watch it again and I would recommend it to everyone. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, for me, if you haven't already seen this movie, then I gotta ask, why not? I believe for me, it's a slurps up just because of all of the twists and the turns that the movie takes you on when it does. It's just one of those things where for a dramatic film with Barry Keoghan's character, it really, I think it was him that just sold me in this movie. Mm-hmm. Yes, the other actors are good and actresses. They're great. But I think him as the main piece and his character that I was seeing with what was going on, it was just something else. And yes, slurps up for me with due caution because
just don't watch it with your parents. And, it is not a family film.
No. But with that in mind, it's just wow, what a twisted film of intensity in some strange ways.
Yeah.
And I think with that being the thought process, it's just it is something I think is worth watching.
It's like a more extreme, her first film, Promising Young Woman, also had those kind of twists and turns, right?
Yeah, is that just the direction she's going to go from now on?
Like,
Promising Young Woman is just kind of like...
But this is even more than Promising Young Woman was. And, even more. I'm excited to see what she does next.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting to think. And I'm curious to know what everyone else thinks out there. If you do end up watching Saltburn, please let us know your thoughts. We're very interested to hear your take on this. So with that being said, that wraps it up for this episode of Screen Slurps. Be sure to follow us on social media at Screen Slurps on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Ghana, or any other podcast streaming service out there. And if you enjoy what you hear, slide on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. It'll help us a lot. And if there's any crazy movies you want to hear about, let us know. Leave a comment on one of our social media pages, and trust me when I say we will be sure to talk about it. So closing out, I'm Adam Meisner.
And I'm Laura Meisner.
Slurps up, and we will catch you later.
There's a murder on the dance.